Hi, I'm Matt Reynolds. I'm the editor of Packaging World magazine, and I'm joined by two colleagues. This is
Derek Teal, editor of ProFood World.
And I'm Casey Flanagan, associate editor with PMI Media Group.
and we're three guys with two mics, so please bear with us as we pass this around. But we're in beautiful Dusseldorf, Germany at Interpack, an event that happens every 3 years. It's massive. It's got both packaging and processing. It's got both machinery and materials. It's got both of everything. So we just spent our first full day on the floor. I've been to several Interpacks, so I knew what I was, what was coming my way. But Casey, this is your first. What did you think?
It is huge. It is bigger than any show I've ever been to, and so there's so much to see. At this first day, I feel like we're barely scratching the surface, but even then, we had a lot of really cool things that we ran into and got to see.
Yeah, Derek, any first impressions?
Again, just said it was absolutely huge. I mean, again, this is my first show as well, and I think I have close to 16,000 steps in, or something like that, or 15,000. And but yeah, it's massive. I spent most of my time in just one hall, and there were what, 12?
There's 17.
17 actually. Okay, see, that's how much I spent in one hall. But there's plenty to see from either a packaging perspective or a processing perspective.
Yeah. Myself, I actually spent a lot of time in just two halls. We got off the train together this morning. You went one direction, I went the other direction. We didn't see each other until now. So maybe I'll kick things off because I was kind of have an intent this morning to cover one thing, and that is on the coding and marking side. We in the United States call it Sunrise 2027. Sunrise is just the general term that's everywhere in Europe. Basically, it's coding and marking, it's labeling, it's putting 2D barcodes. Are you familiar with Sunrise? Have you heard anything about it?
I'm not totally familiar, so if you could give me a 30,000 feet of it.
Yeah, well, Sunrise is basically, for about 50 years now, we've been putting a one-dimensional barcode on packaging that's made every package go beep at the checkout counter, and it's carried GTIN information, global tracking kind of product identification numbers. That's been harmonized between what US and Europe was doing, and a lot of great things have come of it. But now with the advent of 2D barcodes, QR codes, you might call them, you're able to pack a lot more information, a lot more data into a similarly sized code, and you're able to use sensors and vision to read those things, and that can read different things to different people. So in the supply chain, whoever scans it in the supply chain can read all sorts of batch data and so on. The consumer can read it and can be brought off to a website or be sent information about discounting, these kinds of things. And every single rung of the supply chain, right on down to the consumer, including actually after the consumer, down to end of life and recycling and MRFs, material recovery facilities, can access information about an individual single product. The problem is it's variable data. If we're going to be putting information about one single product, it has to be printed variably. Most of our readers at Packaging World are large brand owners who are printing so quickly that to put variable data at the speeds that, say, Coca-Cola is running has always been an issue. So that is what I'm seeing the most movement on, and I saw the most movement on this morning. Like I said, I didn't really leave Hall B until noon, Hall 8B until noon, because I spent breakfast with Amazon, which was great. They did a presentation with Domino, just about what I've been talking about, what the larger picture, the big picture of 2D barcodes, the advent of 2D barcodes. Some of it is being pushed or becoming sort of a mandate or kind of a de facto standard by the retailers who get the most use out of it or have the greatest use case for it right now. But there's so many use cases that can actually accrue to the brand owners themselves. So Amazon has a use case as a retailer, as an e-tailer, it's called transparency, for instance, that prevents counterfeiting. So the idea is that you have these huge brand owners that print really fast products that are going out 1,000 an hour or 1,000 a minute, even in Coca-Cola's case. But how can you put variable data on that in such a way that you can have the resolution and the clarity of a 2D barcode that can be read by scanners, whether it's at the checkout counter or by vision upstream in supply chain or downstream by the consumer so that your phone can read it, but still at that speed. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. When you toggle back, historically, when you toggle back on speed, you get more clarity. When you toggle back on clarity, you get more speed. But now we're seeing various methods of printing. One of them is piezo, one of them's continuous inkjet. All of them have had their own little realms. But the big picture is that you're seeing those boundaries are being pushed out far enough so that you're getting all of the speed, you're getting all of the clarity. One very interesting thing is that we've always thought that clarity was something to do with the resolution or the quality of the print on the actual of the 2D barcode. Oftentimes, it's actually material handling and conveyance. If the product or the package or the carton isn't being presented correctly, then it's not being printed on in such a way that can be easily read down the pike. So I've been rambling on, but that's the big picture. Domino, Videojet, Liebinger just had a new product today, a 2D barcode that is not continuous inkjet. It's something they can't quite tell me what it is yet. So watch. We've got a video about that we can introduce the concept of their 2D barcode printer. Various others, and meanwhile, some of the nozzle printers, Czar, XAAR, Czar, they actually make some of the nozzles. Ricoh is another one that are really leaning into 2D barcodes. The other thing is distance, like how far away can you throw a code? So whether it's right up next to a product, whether it's this far away, the reality in a manufacturing environment is that it's variable. It changes. It moves all the time. So those are the things that I spent all morning reporting on, getting a lot more information on. Europe is, as usual, ahead of the U.S. in a lot of ways. I spoke to Markham and Maj, and they've got some really interesting things going on with what they call Colos. And they have actually a program called their 2D program, Colos 2D, that actually allows a brand owner to bring things to the table like, let's say, a consumer experience. So if I were to scan my Coke can, would that give me information about where this Coke came from, or where I can go redeem this for a free Coke at the next place. So that was my morning. I've spent a lot of time talking. So Casey, let's bounce it over to you. What did you see?
Great. Yeah, so I spent most of my day in some halls that covered the confectionery vertical, and so that there were machines in packaging and processing in that. So I had quite a lot to cover in that area. And I'd say on the packaging side, speed was the name of the game. There was one from it was Thiegarten Pack Tech,
Yeah.
and they had a new flow wrapping machine that they were showcasing on the show floor. That the whole focus of it was speed, ease of operation, and ease of changeover for operators, and that was a new piece for them. And then another one from Kavana was a film sealer, and that was for thicker films that had a longer dwell time, and it was it meant for kind of thicker films that you might see in the pharma industry and things like that. And they build that as the fastest of its kind in the world. So that was interesting to see from them. But over on the processing side, I'd say cleaning was the main theme that I saw.
Like
whether
CIP, like clean in place.
Exactly, yes. There was some clean in place, and also some ability to do changeovers to make cleaning easier for the operator. So even if it wasn't exactly the machine cleaning itself right on the spot, everybody was focused on making sure things were easier to get clean and keep things moving. So one of those was from Osted. And it was a tempering machine that was stainless steel, and it was also directly connected to a clean in place machine, and so that made it so that you could clean the entire system really quickly, and also get things moving so that you can do a quick changeover, get to the next type of product that you want to be running on that. And then over at Solic, there was another really interesting cleaning solution. It was an enrobing machine that was for confectionery. Yeah. So it was things like chocolate bars, enrobing chocolate over it. And that first it had automated setting adjustment, so it just made it really easy for operators to use. And it also, the entire bottom part of it was able to roll out of the system if you get it into the right settings. And so that made it so that rather than having to clean the conveyor and the bottom section of this machine, if you're switching from dark chocolate to white chocolate, you could basically just yank that bottom part out and put it off to the side, have that start its cleaning process off to the side, but then put a new one right in there and get started on the white chocolate pretty fast. So. But then one thing that I saw across packaging and processing that I thought was really innovative, it's a fairly new technology with some new innovation going into it now, was something called Sweet Connect. And
Yeah,
this
you texted me about this.
exactly,
You
yeah.
said it was first introduced 3 years ago at 2023 Interpack, but now you're starting to see it like matriculate into multiple sites. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And so the cool thing about this was it's a data management platform that covers multiple brands. Any participating brand, you can kind of plug into this, and it will monitor machine health for that machine. So a company doesn't have to have a new platform for every machine going along the line. They can, if they have machines that are in this collection of participating brands, it can all be monitored from that one platform. So that was really interesting to see. It was it just made making sure that machines are due for maintenance or in operating order much easier. And it even a new innovation to that was an AI capability.
Yes. We knew we'd be seeing a lot of AI capabilities. It wasn't here 3 years ago, but now it's starting to become everywhere, right?
Exactly, yeah. So the cool thing about that was it had all of that data available if you wanted to click through it, or you could just ask this new AI agent to any question you want to ask, and it just makes it much easier for operators to pull the information they need very quickly.
So you can interrogate the data, whatever is there, in human language, as opposed to having to know ladder logic and find your way through.
Exactly, yeah.
So Casey, thankfully, Casey's been wearing the hat of both processing and packaging, and by handling confectionery and some bakery, I think tomorrow and so on, he's really doing both. So everything from the enrobing of the chocolate all the way down to the packaging at the end. So kind of pulling double duty. Derek, you've been doing mostly processing, but you've been seeing some packaging too. So what are some interesting things that you saw?
I have, believe it or not, and you guys talk a lot, so I'm gonna breeze through mine a little bit more perfunctly. Yeah, so one of the first things that I saw was that what Casey commented on, that's ease of operations for the operator. Harpak Olma, it was actually Olma, introduced on one of their machines that used to have 32 different spots where the film went through, or again, packaging isn't my forte, but where the film run through, and an operator had to go through those 32 points to get the film, or I think believe it's the film.
Yeah, so it would be for Harpak, if it was Olma, this was labeling, or what was?
It was labeling.
Okay, yes. So yeah, it would be like rollers that would be
yes.
Then yeah, okay.
And it went from 32 down to 5.
Okay.
Just because
reducing complexity. Yeah.
Exactly that, and we've been seeing that not just here but in other places as well. That the level of technical ability from some of the employees has deteriorated a little bit. And so you're trying to make things simpler for people that might not be as experienced.
Or mechanically proficient.
Exactly. That's the other aspect of it. And so to make it easier, they're trying to simplify the process. And that's something that manufacturers have been doing for the end users. Also saw something that was interesting today from G. Mondini. There's another system that they have where it prints directly onto the pack. And the whole purpose of this is so you don't have to have an additional label to go on it, so it can print directly onto the package. And the way it prints, it's not just where you don't just need a label, but if you have different products from a single manufacturer, and say the example I had there was some nuts and there was some pastry type products, and same looking package, but on each one it had a different cover to represent what was inside, and that was unique. And it just came off the line. It just a matter of changing it right there on the machine, on the unit, and it was able to print a different looking package based off of, or a different image on the package, which was pretty neat. And again, that's helped reduce the amount of products that are not product, but not having to buy different labels.
Okay.
And reduce the amount of shipping that. Just create more efficiency overall.
Yeah, and you probably don't have to carry as much inventory of multiple different labels.
Exactly. Yeah. That was exactly what was instructed me, except they told me much more eloquently than I provided to everybody else. But on a theme that Casey mentioned earlier, that was clean in place, and food safety has been another big topic, regardless of where Europe, U.S., wherever. And a couple of things that I saw today were from Key Technology. Its new unit is basically not really a new unit; it's an existing unit, but its footprint has been shrunk, and it's for potato chip or fry inspection detection, and it uses a variation of their Veric system to do that. And the difference, while the majority of the unit is the same mechanically, what's unique about it is that detection system where it detects in, I think, as many as 8 uh, different types versus the previous unit's 3. And the conveyor or the bands at the bottom, the problem with the old system was that over time that band deteriorates, and that impacted the quality of the scan that you got. And so that meant the operator would have to go in and adjust it. You can see dips in not dips in performance, but it would gradually dip. Then you'd have to pick it back up, make the adjustments, and then production would go back up. And so over the graph that I saw, there were these ebbs and flows in terms of production. Whereas the new system, because it can read pretty much, well, like I said, 8 different types of scans, and it has the backing, the platform, conveyor belt, whatever you want to call it, because it's actually multiple bands instead of just one flat band. It can detect as many as 8, and the coloration of that, because over time, product being introduced to the top of it, the light coming through, and just age, and that band discolors. And now that this new system, it doesn't matter what happens. Like I saw it on clear and it was fine, and I saw it on very yellow and it was still be able to detect the variations of a multitude of green, blue, infrared, a number of different sensors on that. And the difference was the first one had different ebbs and flows. This one, just a steady stream until it gradually declines in terms of quality. So like everything needs to be updated, but that was pretty unique to see that upgraded system. And the other system was one that isn't available really in the U.S. as far as I know. I believe there are 40 different companies using this right now in Europe, and there's only one vendor currently in the U.S. who comes in as needed to detect, and that's a company called Biomedic, and it uses basically a CT scan of product.
You were talking about this.
Yeah, and it was one of those, like, it was off in the corner, and I was like just walking by, and I'm like, what is this? And went over, and it was pretty cool. And it's able to detect a product, provide a 3D image of a product. It doesn't matter if it's like an apple or a baked good or in cans, or, in jars. It's able to take that, break it down to 0.5 millimeter sections, able to detect and tell you exactly where an imperfection is or a foreign contaminant is in that food product. And it's able, since it's a CT scan, it's able to detect a multitude of different imperfections like metal, plastic, bone, whatever, what have you. And it was pretty neat, and it's something that I hope eventually we get to see more of in the U.S. as opposed to just Europe, because, like I said, it's as important as food safety has always been important, but as more and more manufacturers want to do more for their clients, especially if you're a co-man or whatnot, I think it's a great way to improve that inspection detection aspect of your operations, and to just ensure that the product leaving the facility is as perfect as it can be.
Okay, so not in the United States, not actually like saturated in the United States yet, but maybe something to come.
Hopefully, like I said, there are 40 different, because it does it on the line, and I can't remember the specs. I believe it was something like 44 meters a minute or something like that. It could be a second. I'm pretty sure it's a minute that it's able to detect. But no, in the U.S. right now, there's only one partner that they're company that they partnered with that goes in as needed to help a company, as opposed to these other installations where it's part of their facility and it's running right now as an added benefit or step in the inspection detection process, in addition to X-ray and other 2D type of inspection detection units.
Good. So to kind of save time, I just want to say that we did check out some materials side things. There's a lot going on with paper, particularly barrier paper. 3 years ago, I was at Color Paper, for instance, 3 years ago, and there was maybe one or two products, like real commercialized CPG products. I think one was New Cow. It was like a very early adopter that was using a barrier paper, like a little poly-coated paper that was mostly paper, 90% paper, 10%-ish poly. Now you're seeing it's all over the place. Anything from oatmeal to like flour and powdered type of goods, and all sorts of candies and confectionery are in paper packaging. Now, again, this is mostly fiber based. There's some small amount of poly on it, but I was talking to the Kohler paper guys, and one potential future state is the poly is needed for barrier. Otherwise, there's going to be oxygen ingress, or odors for certain things could be imparted to the food, which you don't want. But the poly right now is using fossil fuels, as most poly is. But what if you were to use a bio-based material, a renewable resource? So even that tiny percentage, less than 10% possibly, of poly for your poly-coated paper with a barrier property, even that comes from a renewable resource, like the fiber itself, which obviously comes from trees, often forest certified. I saw there's increasing amount of digital printing on paper. You can always digitally print on paper, but the digital printers themselves, whether it's HP or Screen, are starting to partner with some of the converters and their suppliers, the material suppliers upstream from them, to actually have to be printing on food-based paper, paper used for food applications with barrier. So that was interesting. There was a cool partnership between Bobst and Michelman and UPM Specialty Papers that just came out a couple of days ago, actually, where again it's barrier paper with barrier qualities that you're able to print on in a whole lot of all the brightest colors and so on. Confectionery, all sorts of snacks and so on, and all of these are recyclable as long as they're repulpable to like 80%. I think is the Western Michigan barrier to clear there. Actiga, there were so many instances of barrier paper now that are actually had in market examples, digital printing on them, that 3 years ago wasn't there. That's the great thing about having this long gap between these shows, is that you can really it brings into stark relief progress, as opposed to if you check on something every week, you're not going to see a lot of progress. You check on something every 3 years, you can see these vast leaps. So with the barrier paper materials, there was a lot. Casey, you want to clean up any last things that that we cut you off, or that you were thinking about that you saw?
Yeah, no, I think to that exact point of progress, I think the Sweet Connect was a great example of that, in that it was first released in the previous Interpack, but then this time was when they were showing off that AI capability. So as the technology progresses, you really see that get integrated into these new technologies on the show floor here. So that was great. And then one thing that I think between Derek and I feel like ease of use for operators was one theme that I mentioned several times in my rundown, but just kind of that feels like an overarching thing that Derek also mentioned a few times. So it's interesting to see how companies are engaging with the reality that it's hard to train employees nowadays on this complex machinery, and making sure they're trying to make that a simpler process and easier to use. So I think this has been a really interesting show to see how they're engaging with these industry issues and working to improve the technology for the sake of that.
Good.
So
good. One quick example. clean in place, and also with the operator ease of use, it was both at Lynx, again, 2D barcodes. They're printing 2D barcodes. Liebinger, another one, being able to clean these print heads very easily. Being able to have one cleaner. Lynx had this example, one cleaner that could service many different printers. So, and basically this is a separate unit that you dunk the print head in, and there's a solvent that instead of having to take out the print head and use like a squeeze bottle to manually do this is basically simplifying things for the operators, for the workers, because there's not enough of them. So the general theme of automation and automating every step of the way, we're seeing everywhere. I can only anticipate seeing more of that in the next few days that we're here. So Casey, Derek, this was only day one. And I've got like 3 more pages of notebooks that we didn't even get to. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we're going to have a lot more tomorrow and the next day and a few days after that. So thanks again.